What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video here on the Fantasy Fellowship channel. My name's Kyle. We're going to do the tight end rankings update here for July. I have already covered the quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. You guys can find those videos on the Fantasy Fellowship YouTube channel. And then I do want to get a screen share going here. Let's take a peek at what I got. We're going to basically just draft these tight ends and put them in my rankings here. And then I'm going to probably put in the comments where you can find the link to these rankings once I get them on the site. So we're going to rank these tight ends. We're going to draft them here on the right and put them in the column here in the middle of the screen. And then I'll tier these guys along the way. So let's hop right into it. I think there's no question who the first tight end is going to be here. It's pretty obvious. It's Travis Kelce. He is worth a first-round pick in drafts this season. And he's getting another year older, but again, he's such an elite tight end, and there's a huge gap between him and the next closest tight end. So we're going to put Travis Kelce in tier 1 all by himself. I'm not even going to put anybody else in that tier. He is the elite tight end. He's being drafted 6th overall here, and these ADPs that I have shown here on the right-hand column, those are from drafters.com, which is a full PPR site. So I'm using those as kind of my base rankings, and then we'll adjust them as we go along. Let's go ahead and get Mark Andrews in here and start tier number 2. I'm expecting Mark Andrews to be back to his normal self as long as Lamar Jackson's healthy and playing the full season. It's going to be a good year for Mark Andrews. And he's kind of being drafted in the 3rd rounds of fantasy drafts right now. I'm fine with that. He does offer a nice little upside there. But I'm not sure I want to put him in a tier all by himself, because I do like this next tight end here in TJ Hockenson. I'm going to put him in the same tier 2 as Mark Andrews. We saw TJ Hockenson kind of blossom last year in that Vikings pass offense. And now that he's got a full year with the offseason program and things to get settled back into that offense, it could be really nice. He's currently being drafted at the end of round 4, beginning of round 5. And I don't know if there's that much of a difference between him and Mark Andrews at the end of the season. They're actually pretty close in my projections. I prefer TJ Hockenson at ADP over Mark Andrews. So that's the tier 2 for me. I think we're going to have a larger group in tier 3. So you got Mark Andrews, TJ Hockenson in tier 2, and then beginning of tier 4 or beginning of tier 3, that's going to be my tight end 4. I'm going to put Darren Waller in here, and he's actually a little bit below ADP. So that's our first one that we get a little bit different with the rankings here. I think Darren Waller, New York Giants, they prioritized him in free agency, or I guess they traded for him, right? And he's a guy that I think as long as he's healthy, we're going to rank him as a top 5 tight end. He's got tight end 1 upside pretty much every week. I think he's going to be the leading target man for Daniel Jones, targets, reception, yards, and maybe touchdowns. So I know he's got some injury risk, but again, as long as he's healthy, man, he's going to be in for a probably his best season since we saw him break out with Derek Carr and the Raiders. After Darren Waller, I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert, and I feel that he has the greatest consistency and risk. He doesn't have a lot of risk. I think he's going to be a very consistent player for us all season long. He's attached to Jalen Hurts, and if you look back at his numbers from last year, I mean, he was really, really solid. And actually, the first half of the year when he was healthy, he was tight end 2 in yards per game. I think he does have a chance at 900 to 1,000 yards this year. He's in an explosive offense, a team that's going to score a lot of touchdowns. I'm pretty excited about Dallas Goedert, and I just think he prevents a really safe high floor, and he's got some really nice boom weeks when he scores those touchdowns. So I like Dallas Goedert quite a bit. Coming in at number 6, it's going to be in tier 3. We're going to go with George Kittle, who last year had a career year with his touchdown spike. I don't expect him to reach those heights again this season. He's got competition from Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. The offense is spread out pretty good. So I just think last year was probably an outlier for him. I expect him to probably come down to 6 or 7 touchdowns this season. He's a really fun tight end, but if you've had George Kittle in the past, you know he's kind of boom bust. He gets lost some games. So I like Kittle a lot. He's got a really high ceiling, but he's also got a pretty low floor in most games. And then I'm going to finish tier 3 with everyone's favorite tight end, Kyle Pitts. I know he is somewhat hard to trust. I think he's going to put it all together. People forget he was a 1,000-yard rookie tight end, and that's just not common. He is a really rare specimen at the tight end position. He's got Desmond Ridder throwing him the ball, so I think you're going to see some more efficiency out of that passing offense in Atlanta. I'm pretty excited about Kyle Pitts, and to be honest with you, I might move him over George Kittle at some point. once we get training camp rolling here. So he might be a little bit higher in our August update. But for now, that is my tier 3 of tight ends. I think all of these guys here have top 5 upside at the position. I like this group a lot. Waller, Goddard, Kittle, and Pitts. And then let's move it on to tier number 4. Starting off tier 4, I'm going to go outside the box here a little bit, and we're going to put Pat Freiermuth here, who is kind of like Dallas Goedert. I think he's really consistent. Last year, he ranked 6th in tight end targets, 6th in yards, and 6th in receptions. He's a really good tight end that's got top 5 upside at the position. He just only caught 2 touchdowns last year. If he has one of those outlier years where he catches 7, 8 touchdowns this year, look out. Pat Freiermuth might be a top 5 tight end. And he's one of my favorite tight end targets right now because he's being drafted so late. He's being drafted in the 9th or 10th round of fantasy drafts here on Drafters right now. Let's go ahead and get, we're going to get Evan Ingram and David Njoku in here, and then we're going to end tier number 4. I think with Evan Ingram, I think he's got top 10 upside at the position. I am slightly concerned that they did add Calvin Ridley, who's going to step into the Marvin Jones role last year. So some numbers are probably going to come down for like Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram. Just having a presence like Calvin Ridley on the team, it's going to lower their ceilings a little bit. But I still feel pretty good about that Jaguars passing offense. I like Ingram if I missed out on those guys earlier. And then David Njoku was having a nice little mini breakout season last year before his injury cost him a couple games. I want David Njoku because he's attached to that Deshaun Watson passing offense. I think it's going to be pretty fruitful this year. And he's probably a top 10 tight end by the end of the season. Now, tier 5, this is kind of where we get into like the sleeper tight ends. And for me, I mean, you got Schultz there with the rookie quarterback, CJ Stroud. You have Tyler Higbee paired with Matthew Stafford. I think Higbee is actually going to be the number 2 target for the Rams. You also have the Titans, Chigoziem Okonkwo. This is a tough tier. I think this is a tier that's going to be, somewhat hard to trust, not very consistent on a weekly basis. But we're going to get Tyler Higbee in here just because I feel pretty good about him being probably the number 2 target for the Rams offense. He's going to have a high floor, probably 4 catches per game, something like that. I don't feel great about it, but I do like Higbee quite a bit when I miss on tight end early. Number 12, we're going to put Chigoziem Okonkwo. He flashed last year as a rookie. And again, it's hard to flash as a rookie tight end, but he showed some really nice ability last season. He's got some really nice efficiency metrics. And now he's got DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks healthy to kind of help take some coverage away from him. So he might be a guy that eats in the middle of the field, catches 3 or 4 passes per game. He's a touchdown threat. Ryan Tannehill should like him a lot this year. So that's my 12th tight end. Let's keep it moving here. I'll put Dalton Schultz here at tight end 13. I don't think Schultz is he's not like a sexy tight end, but I think he could be the security blanket for a young rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud. Maybe 60, 70 catches at the most this year. He's not going to be a super sexy pick, but he could be, just a high volume play at tight end. Let's go ahead and get Greg Dulcich here, the second-year tight end in the Broncos. He had some nice moments last year. He was pretty high in yards per game, too. He didn't play the full season last year, but when he did play, he was a fun tight end that can stretch the seam and get a lot of yak after the catch, And again, I think the Broncos are probably in for a bounce back year with Sean Payton. Let's go ahead and get Gerald Everett in this tier as well, just attaching ourselves to Justin Herbert and the high-flying Chargers passing offense. I think that offense has 5,000 yards in it, so Everett's probably going to be a big part of that. And these guys all kind of look good as your tight end too, especially if you wait on tight end. You can grab a Higbee and Everett and make something work with that duo. Let's keep tier 5 going here. We're going to end it. That's tier 5. Let's go to tier 6 here. And I'm going to kind of surprise you guys, but I'm going to put Tyler Conklin up here in tier 6. He's going just way too late in drafts. He's Aaron Rodgers' starting tight end. We've seen Robert Tonyan have big spike weeks. We've seen Tonyan had a lot of touchdowns in that one season a few years ago, but Rodgers has always had a good rapport with tight ends. I mean, Jermichael Finley, there's a handful of other tight ends that he's thrown the ball to, but Conklin's looking good in minicamp and OTAs and training camp so far. I think he's going to be a busy tight end. And keep in mind, Conklin was a good tight end last year. If you look at his numbers, man, he was in the top of the league in a handful of tight end categories. So he might be a sleeper for me. Let's go ahead and get Irv Smith in here, just attaching ourselves to Joe Burrow. We haven't really seen it from Irv Smith yet, so this is a bit of a hope and a prayer, but I like his talent and I like the offense quite a bit, so we'll put him in there. I'm going to get both Saints tight ends in here, Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill. I know he's not really a tight end, but last year Taysom Hill was a really good running quarterback tight end, and he caught passes. It sounds like he's going to be heavily involved in the offense again this year, and it sounds like he might get more receiving work on his plate. I'll go ahead and throw Cole Kmet in here. He did catch a handful of touchdowns last year. He's Justin Fields' tight end number 1. Let's go ahead and get Dawson Knox in here, who, and I get it, Dalton Kincaid's still sitting up there on my list, but Dawson Knox is their starting tight end. They view Dalton Kincaid as more of a slot receiving tight end. I think it's still really hard for rookies to get onto the field and play well. So we're going to go ahead and put Dawson Knox ahead of him. I think he's just going to be on the field a lot more. And then I'm going to throw 2 tight ends in here, Hayden Hurst and Trey McBride. Tight end 6, or tier 6. With Hayden Hurst, it's kind of like, he's like a poor version of Dalton Schultz for CJ Stroud. He's going to be Hayden Hurst is going to be Bryce Young's potential, security blanket. They prioritized him in free agency. I think Hurst is a good blocking tight end. He's going to be on the field a lot too. He could be just a guy that's, a high floor, 8-9 fantasy points per game kind of situation where if you miss on tight end, he's probably going to be a waiver wire tight end for most of us. And then with Trey McBride, man, I have my doubts on Zach Ertz. He's going through a multi-ligament knee recovery. And at his age for a tight end, I don't feel good about it. I mean, we don't like it when our 24-year-old running back is coming back from the ACL, MCL surgery. So I'm pumping McBride up because I expect Zach Ertz to not play the full season. He might be on the PUP list to start, and I don't expect him to be very good when he returns. So tier 6 is a huge tier for me. Let's move on to tier 7, and now we'll throw the rookie tight ends in there. I'm fine with Dalton Kincaid on my bench as my tight end 2, just to see what happens. I want Sam Laporta on my bench as my tight end 2, just to see what happens. Laporta is probably actually the better play over Kincaid just because there's more weapons in Buffalo. Kincaid might be the 5th, 6th, 7th target. Laporta might be the 3rd or 4th target in his offense. Let's get the starting tight end for the Dallas Cowboys in here, who's going to be their pass-catching tight end I feel pretty strongly about. That's Jake Ferguson. Let's get Luke Musgrave in here as well as Michael Mayer. Again, both rookie. This is the rookie tight end kind of tier, the young, unproven tight end kind of tier here. So I like these guys on my bench. I'll grab Noah Fant and Hunter Henry as well. We'll group them in tier 7. And let's go back and get Mike Gesicki in here. I'm not sure which Patriots tight end is going to be the dude, but I know Gesicki doesn't block. He's basically kind of like what Dalton Kincaid's going to be. He's going to be a slot tight end. And Henry's going to be on the field a lot. Touchdowns, boom bust kind of dependent right there. And that's going to be the end of tier 7. Let's move on to tier 8. These guys are all kind of backups. I think Isaiah Likely, if anything happens to Mark Andrews, Likely is going to be the waiver wire darling for that week. Let's go ahead and get Jelani Woods, who I think is going to be the Colts starting tight end, probably their best pass catching option. We'll get Logan Thomas and Cade Otton in here. They're just starting tight ends for not great situations. And then Durham Smythe is the starting tight end over there in Miami. I don't mind flyers on him, but let's be real. You're probably not drafting anybody here in tier 8 on the end of your bench. I'll throw Zach Ertz in here. Don't feel great about it. Again, I don't know if he's going to even play this year and play well. And then, sure, I'll throw Noah Gray in here at the end of tier 8. And then I'll put Schoonmaker in here, but I don't know if he's going to be much of a factor this year behind Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot. And then my final guy I want to put on here, he's not on the ADP list, but it's Daniel Bellinger. If you guys are nervous about Darren Waller staying healthy, Bellinger's the backup, and he's a year 2 tight end, and he played pretty well last year for a rookie. And I don't know if you've seen the yoked up pictures of him from minicamp, but he looks really good and strong and ready to go. So if anything happens to Darren Waller at some point this year, we're going to be looking at Daniel Bellinger on the waiver wire. So there it is. That is my tight end rankings here for the update in July. Let's recap it here for the audio listeners. Starting up here at tier 1, Travis Kelce all by himself. Tier 2 is Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. Tier 3 is a pretty fun group: Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, and Kyle Pitts. Tier 4 for me is Pat Freiermuth, Evan Ingram, and David Njoku. Tier 5 is a nice little consolation bracket here of Tyler Higbee, Chig Okonkwo, Dalton Schultz, Greg Dulcich, and Gerald Everett. Tier 6 has some slappers in it too. You can get Tyler Conklin, Irv Smith, Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill, Cole Kmet, Dawson Knox, Hayden Hurst, and Trey McBride. I think McBride's probably my favorite sleeper tight end. If I go into the league, into the draft, and I grab David Njoku and just take Trey McBride as my tight end too, you want him on your bench because I think he's going to end up being kind of their breakout player in that offense this year. Tier 7 is a young group here with Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta, Jake Ferguson, Luke Musgrave, Michael Mayer, and then 2 veterans, Noah Fant and Hunter Henry, as well as Mike Gesicki. And then our final tier here, probably not drafting these guys, but we'll watch for them on the waiver wires. Isaiah Likely, Jelani Woods, Logan Thomas, Cade Otton, Durham Smythe, Zach Ertz, Noah Gray, and Luke Schoonmaker, and Daniel Bellinger. So there you go. I'm going to upload these to the fantasyfellowship.com. Right after that, I'll put the link in the comments for you guys. But hey, that was fun. Thank you guys for hanging out with me in this nice little series this weekend. I've covered the positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Check out those videos. Check out the rankings. They're all free on the fantasyfellowship.com. And yeah, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you in a live stream later this week. Peace.